And we're live, Angular community. Guess what? We are back in the building. You will never believe who's here with me today. It is somebody who is legendary in their own right. He is behind some of your favorite aspects of Angular, some of the most legendary architectural decisions, one of the nicest people I've met. And I always say this when I work with people like Alex, not only it's hard to be as smart as he is and as nice and kind as he is, but somehow he does both. It is mind blowing, but he's both nice, kind, and absolutely brilliant. Framework lead, legendary engineer, Alex Rickabaugh. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mark. That was a beautiful introduction. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's easy to tell the truth about people. Let's see who we got in the building. We got lots of people. Oh wow, let's see some comments. Let's see. I just question to see you won't be able to watch watching later. What happened with selectorless? Alex is here, so we'll answer this question. I'm gonna save this one and then we'll come back to it. But let's see what else we got going on with the chat. Question: can we speak to popularity trends as if? Yeah, we'll talk about that too. Because that's a really good question.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, Excite Research back in the building. What's going on? Good to see you. Let's see another question. Also, you can figure Googlebot Robot TXT. I don't know what that means, but we'll dive in. We're gonna dive in on everything. Don't worry. We'll spend time talking and we'll spend time coding. I want to show you folks some stuff. What's going on? Are you steady? It's good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Oh, Michael Small in the building. Legendary Tay Yamba. Let's go. What's up? What's good? What's good? What's good? Okay. Natalia, hello, hello, hello. All right, all right. Think, create, share, grow. Okay, I like that. With the people. Hello, everyone. Good to see you. Perfect timing. Yeah, you are perfect, sir. Welcome to the welcome to the building. Welcome to the building. Hello, hello. See, people are piling in. They're ready to hang out with us today, Alex. We're gonna do some fun stuff. Hello. Let's see. Where you people coming in from? From Nigeria. Love it. Love to see it. Buenas. What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? Let's go. All right, Jerome. Bonjour. Good to see you. Good Logan. What's up? All right. Hello, hello, hello. First time here. Well, thank you for hanging out with us. So glad to have you. Experts. Man, that's like a lofty term. Like
Oh,
people
we've
say
got
things.
Denmark, Hungary, yeah,
Let's go.
Brazil in the house, yeah.
Yeah, let's go. Everybody's here. Everybody's here. What's up, Steve? Back in the building. All right. Hello from Brazil. What's going on? I actually have something that I want to share with the community, but I'm trying to think of the right way to say it because some Manfred Steyer released a book this week, and then he gave me some codes for people to get the book for free.
Mm.
And so, but this is not a promotion of his book, but I do want to give the codes out. So I want to be super clear that if I do paste the codes in the chat today, this is not from Google. This is not from Angler Team. This is just someone from one of the GDEs has a new book, and then they made a bunch of copies available for free. And if I paste those codes, it is specifically because they have those for free, not because Google is sponsoring that book in any form or fashion. I can be super clear about that. But it is a new Angular book out, and he wanted to share that. Okay, before we start, we can start with this question before we start coding. We'll start with this question, Alex. Why does Google rarely use Angular in its own projects? Is that true?
That is actually not very true. If you use Google Cloud, for example, Google Cloud Console is probably one of the world's largest Angular applications. And at Google, there are thousands of Angular apps of varying scales. I think largely what this question might be referring to is like, why is search not written in Angular, or kind of some of the more flagship, big consumer applications? And the answer is that Google has an internal web framework. We've talked about it as Wiz. They're a sister team to Angular. We share a lot of technology back and forth with them. And Wiz is kind of purpose built as a stack that integrates deeply with Google serving infrastructure, with backends, with data stores, and so forth. And that tends to be the better stack to pick if you are building inside of the Google technology ecosystem and want to launch a big consumer-facing product. So it's more a question of how Google architects its entire application stack, including backend, not specifically what choice we're using for rendering.
Excellent explanation. Yeah, like you said, there are thousands, and he's not exaggerating. There are thousands of applications at Google that use Angular. So
I know,
So,
because I have to run their tests when I make changes, and sometimes you break things.
and I don't think people really realize that that's like a true part of our story. That if we make a change to Angular, it has to be working for every Angular app. If we break it, we got to fix it. So if you break 1,000 apps, you got to fix them. You can't just willy nilly do things, which is why Angular is so stable, right? And like there's so many foundational changes that we make that don't cause a lot of disruption for you as users, is because we go through this really rigorous process of making sure that it works for thousands of applications before we can even make it out into the world. So really important distinction there. Let's answer another question. Put your questions in the chat. We're going to code today. So, but since Alex is here, we always want to take advantage of having Alex in the building. All right. Just leaving a question, since I won't be able to watch the live stream later. What happened with selectorless? Did it prove to be too challenging to introduce at this time, or did the priority just drop?
I love this question. It's a great question. I think it's a combination of things, but largely what happened to selectorless is AI. But not in the way that you might think. So AI changes our priorities as a team. We started focusing a bit more on kind of integrating AI experiences into Angular with CLI, MCP, and so forth. But also, we noticed that kind of AI is moving fast as a technology, and it's growing and evolving, and these tools are changing. We invested in doing a bunch of evaluations to see how well AI could write Angular code. And that led to a lot of things. There's resources on the dev site on like the Angular system prompt that you can grab and put into your AI agents. The CLI exposes a best practices tool for them. But one of the things we saw there is there's a lot of value in AI having kind of a consistent, well understood syntax that it's authoring against. So AI, we noticed, was actually rather good at writing modern Angular templates when you gave it the right instructions to do so. But it kind of changes our math a little bit on how we think about evolving the framework. Previously, we were kind of willing to make these like bigger breaking authoring jumps, like ngIf to control flow, for example. Selectorless would have been a huge authoring jump. And the value proposition of doing that was in like developer experience and kind of modernizing the framework versus the like friction of having to go through that change. And that would have been hugely negatively impacting the ability of AI to generate modern Angular code at a very critical moment when everyone was starting to figure out how to use these tools with all of the frameworks that are out there. And so we have kind of a temporary pause on doing kind of big breaking changes, big leaps in the authoring model like that, unless we can really justify that the benefit is worth it. And we found that AI was kind of not struggling very much to write the kinds of Angular code that we have today. So we don't want to kind of mess with that equation unless we have a good reason. We'd much rather bring kind of more incremental improvements to the authoring format that can be adopted kind of incrementally by the models, things like signal forms. Yeah.
Love that answer. Fantastic. All right.
You might still see something like selectorless in Angular if the math is ever in favor of doing that. But in this moment, it's kind of deprioritized in our backlog in favor of other things which aren't as disruptive to the like huge velocity that we're in as an ecosystem.
Fantastic. Okay, so thanks for hosting this chat. Question: can you speak about Angular popularity trends, and if Angular is better for vibe coding? Can I take a stab at this? When it comes to popularity trends, that's just something that we have taken a stance on a while ago. Even back when Jeremy was still on the team, he and I talked about this, where popularity amongst you is what really matters to us because you are the users of Angular, right? So we want to make sure that Angular is the best framework for developers wanting to build scalable, durable web applications, right? And for you folks who've chosen Angular, we just want to make sure that it's good there. So there are always going to be ebbs and flows in the market in terms of what's popular, what's not popular. But you really can't make a decision based on popularity, really, in technology, because some popular technology, will be popular for now and then go away. Angular's been around for, we've endured a lot of the different waves of popularity of different and introduction of different technologies, frameworks, and the framework has continued to grow and evolve to really meet the needs of developers in each phase. Like we were the pioneers in, I would say, web frameworks in the early days. We were one of the pioneers there. And then web frameworks have changed multiple times since then. And a lot of our contemporaries are no longer around, and we have endured because what we keep focusing on is you. That's what we care about, is you. We care about you as a developer. How do we make Angular the best for you? How do we make sure that your applications that you are writing, that are powering your businesses, that are serving your customers, that you have what you need? And so that is kind of been our philosophy, and it continue to be our philosophy because it's hard to win popularity contests. It just really is, because you can't really influence it. Because we put out the best features in the world, you just can't really make people make a choice. But you can say, here's what's great, and if you like it, we're here for you. Alex, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think I'll tackle like the second part of it. Right, is
Please.
Angular better for vibe coding? I don't think Angular is necessarily better. I don't think there is an answer of like one framework that is best for vibe coding. What I will say is Angular is great for vibe coding. I do it on a daily basis. Like Google is now shipping, large chunks of its code are kind of largely AI authored or entirely AI authored. That includes a lot of Angular apps. If you configure your agent correctly, it works fantastically.
Yeah, and we're going to vibe code today because I want to show off our Angular agent skills. And before we answer more questions, keep putting those questions in the chat. Well, I'm going to keep looking at those. I'm going to drop a code into the chat I'm going to put the title of the book. That way you can know where to find it, or the link to the book. Let's see. And I'm going to put a code here. I'll put the title to the book, or should I put the link? Working at a big company is just so like fraught with like missteps. You gotta be careful. Like, okay, don't do the wrong thing here. So this is the book by Manfred. I don't want to spell his name wrong. Hold on. See, that'd be whack. I know how to spell it, but I don't want to spell it wrong. I'm gonna drop one of these codes. And I'll keep dropping codes throughout the live stream for people who want to have a look. All right. I can only find a link to the actual book, and I don't want to waste your time or my time. So here's what I'll do. Let me see if I can get this. Oh no, I hate when I do that. That's so frustrating. Sometimes it's just profiles. Profiles just can kill me sometimes. All right, friends at home, I'm going to do this here. Let me drop that. I'll drop this, and then I'll let you can find it, and then I'm gonna. So that's it. That's the name, and then I'm gonna drop a code for you. Again, that was very generously donated by one of our GDEs for his new book. Donated by our GDE for his new book. And then so first who gets it gets to use it. All right, there you go. I dropped one of the codes. All right, so let's talk about this vibe code experience, because I love that you care about vibe coding, because what we found on the Angular team is that exactly what Alex said. If you configure your environment correctly, you can just get great outcomes. Great outcomes. And so let's do some of that. Let's get some great outcomes. So I want to share my screen, and it's going to be dangerous sharing my entire screen. Let me make sure that I got everything, like, because I don't want it to like show something proprietary to people like, oh, Mark leaked, he leaked something. I did not. All right, so instead of vibe coding from scratch, let me vibe code an existing app, because I think vibe code from scratch is also a thing that you see a lot of times that people are talking about. And then that's a different experience than like vibe coding within an application. Let's see. Let me be super clear. Are you giving away the book? Manfred donated some codes to the Angular community, and I'm just sharing those codes to our audience during the live stream. So I'm not giving it away. Angular's not giving it away. Google's not giving it away. Manfred gave us a code. He's one of our GDEs. Okay, just to be clear. So I'll be dropping some more codes throughout the stream. All right. So here, let me share my screen real quick, and then Alex, you can actually probably help me figure out how to take this app to the highest of levels, which is what I really want to do.
All right.
let's see. So I'm going to share this screen. That looks good. All right, friends at home, this is my Visual Studio Code screen. I'm going to share in 1 second. All right. All right, here we go. All right, so what I have here, let me walk you all through the setup that I have. I'm in Visual Studio Code, and I'm working on an app that I'll be using as a demo for an upcoming talk. And one of the cool things is I'm using Gemini CLI as my coding agent, not the only coding agent, just the one that I like, right? Gemini CLI. And then this is an Angular app, and I actually got my design for the app from Stitch, believe it or not. Actually started in Stitch to get this design. So let me show you folks what it looks like. And oh, here's something really important. Let me show you what my setup is for my agentic work. Oh, okay. I'm totally messing this thing up.
What is Stitch, Mark, for
oh
those
yeah,
of us who haven't lived in that ecosystem?
yeah. So Stitch, so Google Stitch is one of our new experiments that allows you to have a vibe coding design partner. So you can go on a Stitch and you can describe what you want from your UI, and then Stitch will give you like a design system and help you design some of your application screens. So pretty fun. Really excited about that. So let's see here. Okay. I want to show you what I have in terms of MCP servers. So I'm going to do /MCP. MCP is model context protocol. I'll do my list here and show you. So I have two MCP servers. The Angular CLI, so the one powered by the Angular CLI, which is so good. We talked about this last month. We had Alon on the show. And then we have the Chrome DevTools CLI. The reason I have Angular CLI MCP server because of some very specific tools that help quite a bit when I'm coding. Search documentation is awesome. And then these three developers dev server tools are fantastic. Stop, start, and wait for build. These come in clutch when you're vibe coding with Angular and you're doing agentic code. And then when you pair that with the Chrome DevTools MCP server, which has things where you can go to a web page, you can click on something, it could do a lot of actions for like almost simulated testing and interacting with the site. Really nice. Really nice. Okay.
Yeah, I use Chrome DevTools MCP on a regular basis. It's really amazing to see, like, you tell the agent, "Oh, there's a problem," and it opens the browser and like starts clicking around to try to figure it out.
I'm telling you, it makes it so good. I love it. All right, so here's a great example. So first, I start the dev server. Let me know if that's too small. I can zoom in a little bit. All right. So it already wants to like do list projects. I don't know why it wants to do that first, but I don't really care about that. I'll let it figure it out. See, now it's figuring out what it needs to do. So it's going to do a build, and then it gave me my URL. Now, if I really want to get fancy, I can say open the web app for me. What if I do open web app for me? Let's see if it'll MCP. See, look at that. It wants to open a new page with the Chrome DevTools MCP server. That is fantastic because now it's going to open it up and we get to see. Perfect. So this is the application that I actually vibe coded this using Angular and the MCP server and a couple of other things.
You've got some PowerShell issues there, Mark.
We do have some PowerShell issues. So let's walk through this application. So if we look at this fleet page, you can see all of our fleets. We can see what the battery of our fleet of electric vehicles are, whatever they are, right? They're electric something. And then if one of these, so some of this, some of these are not implemented to do anything. So these are things that we can do together. Like if you click on this, we can figure out what should happen. Then you have your service queue because you might say, oh, something is wrong. All right, so I can pick one of these and then I can say, oh, this one's already in maintenance. This one looks critical. Something ain't right. We got to figure that out. And then you can go in. Again, this is vibe coded, and this tab view is actually Angular Aria. So, and I did not write any of this code. This is all code generated through Gemini CLI, but using Angular Aria for how to do it. So how do you know what you can do? So if you go to skills and you can see list, we have our official Angular skills. And I have some Gemini API skills here too, but this is the one I want to draw attention to. Is our official Angular developer skill. Now, why did I name it Angular developer versus Angular or something else? Nobody knows what's right around skills. We're all still like defining what the formula is going to be for what skills and how they look. I'm hedging a little bit on the fact that if you take a skill as almost like as a human, you're like, oh, what skills do you have? Oh, I'm an electrician, right? Or I'm a carpenter. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I'm an Angular developer. So that's why I call it Angular developer skill, right? Because I was trying to think of some ways to like frame this. And so these are the official Angular skills and if you want to get these skills in your projects, you can just run through the process of npx add skills Angular /skills. Sure, I already have it, but I'll just show you. Uh-oh, what did I do here? Did I spell Angular wrong? Oh, I forgot to put add. Okay, I was like, wait, what? You got add here. Okay, and then you can see, and those are our two skills. We have the Angular developer skill, and if it's a developer who doesn't have any experience with Angular, we have the Angular new skill, which would actually set up your environment for you on Windows, Linux, or Mac to be able to start with Angular in case you don't have any experience. So this is from like a 0 level for vibe coding. You can say, hey, I want these two Angular skills. And then without even setting up Angular, you can pair these two together to actually start vibe coding, even from like Gemini CLI. All right, let's look at some of the comments to see what questions people may have. Because I cannot. Let's see. Uh-oh, that's the wrong screen. Okay. People are asking some questions. Okay, speaking of skills of MCP, can you talk about the distinction between those two concepts as well as their overlap? Alex, I want to have you tap in on this one as well, because I know you spend a lot of time with this. So first, why don't you jump in and take a stab at answering this one?
Yeah. So, this is an ecosystem that's rapidly evolving. And so these things are kind of popping up and changing and disappearing and mutating over time. But largely, agent systems like the Gemini CLI, like Google's anti-gravity IDE, the agent inside of that, the coding agents from other companies, they can do what are called tool calls, which is essentially they can call an API that you've provided to the model to accomplish some task. And the agent itself is like using tool calls to list and edit files, to run builds, and so forth. An MCP is a way of connecting your own tools to the agent so that it knows that it can interact with your system and call your APIs in addition to the ones that it has kind of naturally built in. So you'd use MCP for something. You saw Angular DevTools had like start the dev server, or you can expose information to the model through tools. So you can have a tool call to like get the best practices or get reference material for a certain API. So that's MCP. And skills are kind of a newer thing that is largely starting to replace MCP. So what we've actually seen is that in most cases, you don't need to make something a complete custom tool that's integrated into the agent harness, because the agents are actually really good at just using standard CLI commands. So if you give the agent a CLI that it can call just like a human would in the terminal, they have a tool call for like running a shell script, running a shell command, then they're able to work with that. And so what you actually need is just a way to expose to the agent, like, hey, here's a description of some, part of the system that you might be interested in working with. And here's some, commands you might need to run to do certain things in that ecosystem. So a skill is like a more general purpose way of giving the agent information about a memory or a system or a process that you want it to follow. And there's some standardized way to hook these things and register them. So I think of skills almost as like, skills that we acquire as developers. For example, Kirill on our team recently built the signal forms skill for Angular, which is just a bunch of information for the agent to work with signal forms. You might also have a skill for version control. So Google has like a very internal version control system that's separate from Git and GitHub and everything. And we have a skill that we give to the model that tells it how to work with Google's particular version control, including which CLI commands to run to accomplish certain tasks. So that, for example, the Chrome DevTools MCP that Mark has installed here, that team recently released a CLI that does the same thing. And so I think the longer term plan is to transition away from having to like specifically install the MCP server and moving towards giving the agent a skill for working with Chrome DevTools that tells it how to use the CLI.
All right, excellent. Yeah, and right now, as things are still shaking out, I'm finding, at least in my experience, use of both. Like both
Yeah.
are turning out to be like good for me, where the combination of the two are starting to work pretty well, at least in these cases. Because one thing about, the risk of skills, same thing, risk of MCP, risk of all of this stuff, right? The risk of all this stuff is that you have to vet the things that you are installing, because as skills can have scripts that do things, you should know what those scripts do. Same thing with MCP tools. You should know, like you should, because your agent is going to call them. Like the whole point is for your agent to do it without you having to like intervene, right? So you should know what those things do. So, and I'm finding with like the Angular MCP server plus the Angular skills, like there's this really nice flow of like knowledge plus capability. But I'm not managing the MCP server. Another team is managing the MCP server. I'm like leading the skills effort, right? And so, like for instance, Kira's skill for Signal Forms is rolled into the Angular developer skill. Like we and plus, here's another thing about the skills that's really something that again no one knows is right. Is it better to have 150 character or 150 line skill that is like a more broadly encompassing thing, or is it hyper focused, single skill, one topic, and then you have to maintain 20 of those?
So actually, we're working a lot right now on building out like not Angular team, but like just the larger web organization at Google. We're building out skills for all of these things. And one of the techniques I heard about just yesterday, actually, that really piqued my interest and is fascinating. Our partners on the Wiz team are working on a Wiz developer skill, and they're doing what's called ablation testing for their skill.
Oh, what does that
So
mean?
that we have some way of generating, like have an automatic process to say like generate me 200 apps based on prompts. We're actually using kind of prompts from the Web Cogen Score collaboration that we did.
Mm-hmm.
And we can measure the quality of that. How many apps are kind of building successfully the first time? How many had repair steps? What errors did you encounter? Does the app pass accessibility tests? You can rate these applications and score it. And when you can score something, you can evaluate it and test changes on how they impact the score. And so what they're doing with the skills are kind of going in and deleting certain parts of them almost randomly, right? Like delete this paragraph that doesn't need to know about this API. And you run the evaluation and you say, did that improve the score? Did that leave the score neutral, or was that a detriment? And so you can evolve your skill almost automatically in a loop and optimize it to get the most benefit for the fewest number of bytes and lines that you're putting in. And we're finding, actually, I think we started with like 1,000 line skill, and we're down to less than 100 with no negative impact, because it allows us to really finely tune kind of what the model knows and can work with on its own versus what we actually need to tell it about.
Fantastic.
This is such a cool space, like,
because it's still evolving, right? Like I said, everyone's still trying to figure out what's the like direction of this. And I always make this joke that like AI has caused us all to do such funny like engineering practices, where before like a skill wouldn't even be like a topic of conversation for a year. It'd take a whole year before we even started considering it. And now we're like, oh, a new thing, let's do it. We got to get into, because it's like the frontier. It's like so much opportunity to be innovators in a new space. And for the Angular developer skill, I used this tool called Skill Grade that was made by Minko from Google, in Angular. And I was, trying to remove as much as I could to get the skill to be as small as possible, but to have the intervention be as little as possible when running, but I think that it may not be I don't know if the holy grail needs to be that zero intervention when your agents are coding. I don't know if that needs to be the holy grail, even though I know people are really pushing toward that. But I don't know if that has to be the answer. Something to talk about, something to think about. Let's vibe code some stuff, because what I noticed is that my app. What would you, Alex? What would you expect to happen if you clicked on one of these like rows on the inventory page?
Okay, so this is inventories of like a fleet of electric vehicles of some
Yep.
kind.
Mm-hmm. And they're
I
all
would
showing up on my map.
right. I would expect it to either navigate me to a page about that particular vehicle, or open some kind of details pop up or modal or something to interact with that particular vehicle.
Would you want to do a sidebar modal or a full page or a pop up?
Let's do like a pop up.
Oh, okay. Let's do it. Let's do it. So this is going to be a good chance for us to use our. All right. So here's how I actually vibe code. We'll show the streets the truth. No, I just want to clear because there's too much stuff on them. And vibe code is such a weird term. It's very loaded. Here's how AI assisted code. That's what I like to call it. So what I'll typically do before I even get to like actually prompting, I'll say what my need is first. So I want to generate a detail view for the, what page is that we were just looking at? It was called something else. The fleet list. Yeah, for the fleet list page. When clicking on a row, open a pop-up displaying all of the information on the page. Oh, sorry, information about the entry. So what now I want, so like that's like a kind of, I won't say naive prompt, but that's kind of like a very base level prompt. We can be very specific here, and we can decide, do we want to influence the architecture or not? And so I would say, in this case, does Angular Aria have any pop-ups, anything in it?
I don't know. It might have like a card. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm gonna
open their documentation page.
I got some grid, list box, menu bar, select tab, trees. Okay, so nothing like that, but I'm sure we could build it if we needed it. But that's okay.
Yeah, I guess a like pop over or a card isn't really an interaction pattern per se. So
okay, that's fine. But we can still do pop up. But I am going to influence the architecture, because I'm going to say requirements here. The pop up should be accessible, should follow accessibility patterns. WCAG accessibility patterns. Make the pop-up read only. Yeah, it should just be read only, right?
Okay.
Unless it should be an edit. Is it an edit view or not?
I think read only for now is fine. I was thinking like you had map coordinates there, so it'd be nice if the pop-up showed us an actual map of where the car is. And we probably want this to be like a modal pop-up, right? Like if I click outside of it, it should close the window or the pop-up that opens up.
Now, when I'm like usually prompting friends at home, if I go, so this is better. Now, this is like feature versus, like there are different types of features you can do, because if I was describing a service that needed to be implemented as a part of this, I would start to even talk about some of the APIs that I would prefer to use. For example, if this were going to make a fetch request to a data source, I would specifically start trying to influence it with things like use HTTP resource, or a resource with a custom loader, et cetera, right? Like I will start to be very specific. And I think that's okay, because guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to waste less tokens trying to get it to do it right. And I'm not having the expectations that it's like perfect the first time. I don't think you got to one shot everything, but I want to not waste tokens. Like that's my thing. I don't like wasting tokens because somebody got to pay for that. And so, all right. And then here's what I'll do as well. I'll also switch into plan mode just so I can see what it's going to do before it does it. And so while that's spinning up, let me answer some questions. Let's see. Let's get the questions up here. Says angle 14. Okay, let's see. Please, can someone speak on more on Google Stitch? I'm not sure I got it right. It was used to develop the app on it. Okay, sure, Victor. Google Stitch is for, I like to say like vibe designing, kind of, where you get to describe what the prompt, the UI that you want, and Google Stitch will design the UI. It could even make like functional prototypes, but those are not going to be built in like a framework, so to speak. I don't think. I think those are more like kind of basic HTML and JavaScript to give you like a functional prototype that you can show off. You can then export that design from Stitch, and then you can import it. So you can export the design as code or as a markdown file, and then you can use that for your actual like vibe coding experience, which is how I got here, right? Like I designed it in Stitch, gave it feedback, and then I exported everything, and then I actually here, let me show you this plan so you can see what I mean when I say that. If I go to my context folder, again, I don't know if this is okay. So I got my content folder, got my design, and then you can kind of see it. So this is that's really, hold on, let me make it nice and large so you folks can see. So this is what it gave me first, was this, and I've since like refined it, right? Like this isn't the like final version of the app. I've refined it and I've added things, I removed things, but this is what it gave me first. And then it also gave me a design.md, which was like, I didn't write this. This was all written by like Stitch. And then I think it's pretty cool. And then it gave me a code, HTML, which has like the styles and like inspiration that the agent can use to build based on that. Yeah. Hopefully that's more clear. All right, let's get back to our agent here and see what we got going on. I'm not gonna automatically accept edits. Again, I'm old school. This is just me, not telling you what to do, telling you what I do. I gotta read this. Like I gotta look and I gotta see like what's happening. All right, so you're gonna update just these two files. I know people out there have worked with coding agents, and then like more things get updated than you expected. That's why I like to read. I'm like, okay, what are you gonna update? And then I'll even ask questions like, why are you gonna do that? Like, why? So that looks good because this input is actually like signal based input. That's what you want to see, right?
Yeah, it's following the best practices. That's nice.
Okay, add cursor pointer. All right, like look, that looks right to me. The add if, and look, verification and testing. So it already has this planned out for us. So okay, now I'm going to say go ahead and take care of your business. I'm going to do number one. Plan is approved. My plan is being stored on my computer if I want to ever go back to it. But let's go to another question. Let's get, because people have a lot of questions for you, Alex. I saw a fun one. I would love for you to take a second. Do you have any fun fact stories for breaking a Google product by making a change to Angular?
Oh God, yes. Oh, so many. My favorite though, do you know the private API symbol that Angular uses, which looks like the symbol theta?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Is actually the character that the technical term for it is like the Latin barred O.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
O with a bar through it. Yeah, Latin barred O. And Doug on the Angular team actually made a website specifically for us to load when we need to copy paste this character because it's kind of so hard to type otherwise. But so early in the days of Ivy, while this is running, we were introducing this concept of instructions, right? Functions that the compiler's output would call. And we wanted to have a different prefix than the Latin bar O to indicate something was compiler generated code versus just a private symbol that kind of human written code would reference. And so we picked out another character from the list It was I actually don't even know the name of the character. It was kind of this like cursive looking thing. And we did a giant change one day that someone had to land both in the framework and across all of the applications at Google that were referencing these things, like change this character from the Latin bar O to this thing. And we landed that. And about a day later, we got a ping from another team that was like, hey, our like production application stopped working. So we had to roll back, and we traced it back to like this change that you did. And I started digging into this, and sure enough, yeah, like if you built their application before this change, it was fine. And if you built it afterwards, you started getting really weird JavaScript errors. JavaScript errors of like, this thing is not an identifier, right? And it had like weird text in the JavaScript. And I dug into this and discovered basically that for most web servers at Google, when they serve a JavaScript file, they were set up to serve it and add the HTTP header like content type, text JavaScript, character set is UTF-8, except for App Engine. Google App Engine at the time would serve JavaScript without a character set attached. And so what was happening is when our Angular app was deployed specifically to App Engine with this special character in it, it would get misinterpreted by the user's browser, because the browser is just trying to guess at what encoding the JavaScript is using, and it would guess some old Windows like code thing, and it would misinterpret this character, and it would decompose the multi-byte into 2 characters that then was an invalid JavaScript identifier. And this was one of those moments where it was like, okay, I understand the bug, but now I don't understand, like, why does Latin bar O not break?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why did we get away with that one? And there's this command you can run to like convert a character from one character set to another and see what it would decode. So I tried that, and when you decode the Latin bar O incorrectly in the character set that browsers guess, it decomposes into 2 characters, but they both happen to be valid JavaScript identifier characters. What? So it turns out that that bug is still there to this day. Those browsers are still decoding the Latin bar O incorrectly. It just happens to work.
It just happens to work. That's one of the type of problems where it's like a once in a lifetime type of like issue. You know what I mean? Like that's such a specialized like set of knowledge you have about this. Probably will never show up again. And if it does, you'll be the only person who like knows it in like 5 seconds. Like, oh yeah, check this. They're like, how do you know that? I'm like, look, long story. Let's just say I've been there before. Wow.
Yeah.
Wild. All right, let's check in on our agent. So it said that it did some stuff, and then it actually opened up the window. I didn't switch to this window. It switched itself because, as you can see at the top, it's probably really small, friends at home. But it says that this, see, I can't even zoom that part in. But it says this software is being controlled by autonomous test software. So the agent is like operating through that same channel. So now let's see. All right, let's go. Now, I ain't gonna lie to you. I've never claimed to be like the fastest engineer on any team, but I know that I would not have had this in 5 minutes. I can tell you that now. And if this works, it's just and it's a screenshot. Or not a screenshot. I wonder what this is. What is this? Let's see what that is. Can we like inspect it and find out how did it do it? So it's using this leaflet. It's a map plane. So this isn't even like a screenshot. This is just like it just used the right.
This looks like an actual map component of some sort.
Yeah. Well, because I know that the app itself is using leaflet. And that was part of the original plan to like build the app. I was trying to figure out what could be my like app map solution.
I bet that's actually interactive. Like you can probably zoom and
I can click it, but it doesn't do anything, of course. But it doesn't let me zoom. But you know what that's a job for? The agent. Like it should zoom. Yeah, I want to be able to scroll the map. All right. Looks great. Now make that mini map zoomable. zoomable, and scrollable. Oh, and there's something else that I'll show you folks that I did in the middle while Alex was telling that story. I actually directed the agent a little bit. Let's see if I can scroll back to that part. All of this is from the DevTools server. It tried to build the application. See right here, it was trying to run npm run build. I'm like, why you need to do that? Because the problem is that I have experienced is that when you have to run npm run build in that situation, sometimes if there's a background process, the agent will get a little confused, like, and not know how to continue. So that's why I like the MCP tool there, because we have a wait for server build tool so it can know when to resume. So I just told it, like, don't do that. I stopped it. And then I was like, hey, use MCP tools for building. And now it's like, oh, yeah. Oh, there is a dev start. Oh, there is a wait for build. I can do all these things. So, oh, look at that. See, I told you, Alex. You're a legend. All right, let's make this thing scrollable. And now this follow-up prompt is like a touch that I'm adding, right? Versus like defining the full like scope of the thing that we were doing. It's like the touch that I'm adding. Now, if we test this, we find performance issues, then we'd have to go through and be even more diligent, right? If this just works, I'm gonna just be like, man, wow.
So oh, whoa. Yeah.
Stop.
Map is controllable.
Let's go. Like, let's go. Ah, it's so good. It's so good.
Do you want to try something cool actually?
Yes, I totally do.
You just mentioned like if this has performance issues, right? Then we might have to go and do more. I would try asking Gemini CLI here, like, can you check the INP of opening the map modal? The details modal, right? Because through the DevTools MCP, it has access to the same kind of dev tools that we do, including the performance. Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Including performance tracing. So it is able to do those kinds of things.
Look at that. And it went and listed, and it found the tool that it was looking for that could help us with that. Let's see. There's so much output. If I had feedback, Chrome team, if you're listening, maybe let us toggle the stack trace output from when you're doing stuff, because I think
that's more Gemini CLI just spitting out the whole result.
Oh, I see. Okay, because there's just so much. You see what I'm saying? Like, look at all of that. Like, I feel like it can get in the way. It can get in the way. But Alex, what I want to call out while this is running is the difference between like trying to one-shot this entire application versus like thinking thoughtfully about the things that we want. Right. So when I just asked for that feature, it didn't include the zoom, but that was the first thing that I thought it should be able to do. Like, oh yeah, it should be able to like zoom. I tried to click it, and then you even thought it before I didn't even say anything. You thought the same thing. So I think there is so much value in being the orchestrator with actual knowledge about application development, application design here.
Yeah, and what I love about that is you can sit down and for me, the vibe coding solves that like blank page effect, right? Where you're just like staring at the blank screen, like not sure where to begin. It's so nice to have the agent scaffold something, even if it's completely wrong and different from like what you look at it and you're like, no, that's nothing like what I wanted. But just having that allows you to start expressing what you want in a lot more concrete terms. So for me, I'm like very visual design challenged, right? I'm terrible at actually like describing or coming up with the style how I want something to look. But I know it when I see it.
That's
and
right.
I know when it's close, and I can kind of guide it in the right direction. And so working with the AI to do that has been fantastic.
Totally. And same thing with like design, because I know that with as more design tools come online for different products, people are like, oh, designers are cooked. I'm like, designers are cooked the same way that we're cooked then. Because if you think that like human taste and human influence is not needed there, then it's like I feel like you're kind of missing the plot. You know what I mean? In that point, because I think a designer will look at a design that's good enough for you and me and be like, oh, here are all the ways we can improve this and how I can partner with the tool to make the best version of it in faster time. And I think that's really interesting from engineering and from design. If anywhere where AI can generate content, it's like, can you use it to augment your process? I think you can. I got this question I want to answer before we add some more stuff because we are talking a whole bunch, but we're hanging out too, just chilling. Mark, why do you use Gemini CLI and not the Gemini Code Assist extension? Awesome question. Awesome question. I use all these tools and watch Herbie talking. Stop it. I use all these tools in different ways. If I am hand coding something, which does happen because sometimes I use coding to submit my knowledge of something, so I'll type it out so I can really understand, so I can really experiment to understand it. There'd be some like syntactical things I'm like, I don't want to type all of that out, right? Gemini Code Assist works really great for me in that way, but then Gemini CLI, I use it even outside of coding. And that's the other thing. Like I make a lot of videos of me playing guitar. Do not look for those. And I have I do these 100 video challenges, right? I did not want to rename all of my videos to match a new format. I literally opened up Gemini CLI in that folder and was like, hey, could you please rename these and then move them to the right place? Now I was a little worried because I'm like, now if you delete them, I'm gonna be mad, right? That's just a lot. But I just wanted to try, right? And so I had a little subset, and I'm like, okay, do these. And then it actually read the directory and was like, hey, this one actually didn't follow the original format either, but I think you want it as well, so I'll move it into the right place because it was a copy pasta error and on my own, right? And so Gemini CLI can just do more than just code. And it's a tool that can work across your computer, for example, in different contexts. So that's why I use it, because I use it for more than just code. But it's good at code. It's good at code. All right, let's see. I missed the skill gist. Anyone care to give a recap? I'll give you a recap. Here's a recap. We're just Alex and I are hanging out. He's been answering questions. And then I've been vibe coding or agentic coding with the Angular skill, plus the Angular MCP server, plus the Chrome DevTools MCP server. And we're just trying to build out this app and just kind of show some different workflows that Angular developers can do to vibe code or agentic code, however you want to call it. I think both things are true. All right, let's see if we can get a couple more features in because I feel like we're really cooking right now. But look, it says that everything looks okay, but the init map call in fleet detail modal is a CPU intensive operation that makes the map add. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have some cost to rendering the map.
Yeah,
makes sense.
So here's the optimizations: micro task deferral or lazy layer addition.
I don't think we have to dive too much deeper here. 180 is decent for an interaction.
Sure. But okay, so yeah, let's not dive deeper. What I want to call out to our developers, because I know a lot of people are so worried about does it matter that I know how to code? Does any of this stuff matter? Here's where it matters. One, you would know to ask this question, right? The agent never came back and said, hey, would you like me to do performance testing? All your hard-won know-how is not out of style. Knowing to ask this question and then knowing which one of these solutions is right. Right? These are the places where it totally matters that you know how to code and that all your experience in engineering is still very valuable. Okay. So keep that in mind, friends. Just keep that in mind as you're trying to I want you to feel good about where you fit into this story. All right. So this looks good. Our app is cooking. The filters work. They were up here. So you can do filtering. What else can we do? So we got this working. I guess we could do an edit if we wanted to. Is there anything else cool we can do, Alice, that you can think of?
Ooh.
I guess this should do something better. This doesn't do anything. You click on them, but they get selected in this list.
Yeah, it should get selected in the list, right?
Yeah, but how do you know where? Should
we can scroll the list to that point when it's selected.
All right. Now, I want to say this. I want to see it actually do it because I did this on the live stream where I had a chat window that every time you add a chat, I wanted it to scroll down, and I tried to do it by hand. And the team was trying to help. It was a whole thing. I want to see if we can get the agent to do it, like, to make that work. Yeah, scroll into view. Okay, we're gonna do it. The chat is saying scroll into view. All right. For now, we'll hold off on optimization. Let's focus on the landing page. Focus on the landing page. When one of the map markers is clicked, let's scroll the selected entry from the right panel into view. Let's see if it knows what I'm talking about before it starts doing stuff. So go back into plan mode.
Mark, I think we lost your audio a little bit.
Oh, am I back now?
Yeah.
Okay. That could have been my fault. I could have stepped too far away. All right, let me hide this. Oh, let's see. Fly to ease. Oh, sure.
There we go.
Oh, look at all that stuff. Okay, we got some good suggestions. Let's see. What else? Okay, so Alex answered this. But I'm going to give you a quick recap. So they can work together. So the way that we're using it to work together right now, the skills are providing context to the agent on how to do a bunch of the like core Angular features and how to do things like signal forms, Angular ARIA. We're using the MCP servers right now to like control the dev server, for example, or have it look up documentation. So that's how they can kind of work together. And then don't they overlap? They can overlap, and that's something that Alex was saying, that there's a lot of overlap that's happening in the skills versus MCP space right now in general. Let's see. By the way, Alex, what is the plan for Angular ARIA?
I think they're working towards trying to stabilize the API. As always, we can't really give any hard commitments for specific release dates. But they're in the same state as Signal Forms, I think, which is they're trying to burn down kind of all of the known issues that need to be resolved before we will consider the APIs stable.
Yeah, that's right. Trying to get it ready for the streets to really enjoy. Okay. Why do you want to do that? Why does it want to add a unit plus unit ID binding to the container? It's already there, but maybe it wants to be able to find, because it wants to be able to scroll to a particular place. Yeah, that's fine, I suppose. You set timeout to allow the DOM to update. Alex, that feels weird to me that it wants to do this.
Yeah, that seems more like something you would use an after next render in Angular for. So we could give it a little hint there.
I agree. Okay, let's see. Okay. So I got some things that this thing is acting a little weird. Hold on. Okay, type my feedback. All right, so instead of set time out, you should investigate using after next render instead. That's a better solution. I'm going to tell us the better solution, so that way it doesn't be like, you're absolutely right, but I'm going to do what I want to do. Like, no, listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. Now, when I told to investigate using after next render, hopefully, if it doesn't know from the agent skill, it'll use the search documentation feature of the MCP server and figure it out. Okay, what did it say? Did it say you're right? Oh, it didn't even fight me on it. It just said I'm gonna do it. They just said instead of. All right, let's do it. Let's make it run.
It didn't give you an over the top compliment.
About how smart I am?
Yeah.
No. No. It did not say you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Oh yeah, for sure. No, this is a great comment. I also have already said this book, Learning Angular. I still love actual books like this one. Yeah, I says also has a fantastic book, which is great for. I love his book for the introduction to Angular. So if you're like very new to Angular, I think it has a really nice on ramp. Check it out. I was gonna say I think I wrote the forward for this version, or maybe the version before this one, but I had the honor of writing the forward for one of his books, which is fantastic. Very good author. Another Angular GDE. Our Angular GDs be out here doing work. Oh, Sky Zero's in the building. What's going on? What's going on? Good to see you. Oh, I haven't posted any new codes in a second. Let me post another code in case people are looking for it. Oh, that was mentioned a while back. Oh, great question. So here's a question: how would one access the Angular signal form skills that was mentioned a while back? If you use the Angular developer skill, it's in there. So here, let's have a look. In a project, so this might seem like inside baseball, but let me just show you how non-magical all of this is. When you put this in your project, so using even the npx skills, you do that, it just copies it to a folder. This is actually the content of the GitHub repository, right? And so we have our skill file, and this is all stuff that was written for how to like do a thing. So for forms, we have our guidance, and then for signal forms, this is written by Kirill. So the reference file was written by Kirill, which has the information that you need, because things like this form field agents I've seen get this wrong because the examples that they had were from when it was still called field, I think. And so it'll like get it wrong. And then this becomes even more important. But yeah. So in
This is how we bridge the training data, right? The model hasn't been trained on the latest, signal forms APIs that came out 2 weeks ago, but it can get that information from the skill.
That's right. I like that language, bridge the train data. That's right. Yeah, so that's how you get access to it. It's right in the Angular developer skill. So our main skill, this is very short. See, that's very short. But where and because skills use progressive disclosure, so it's like it'll look at the metadata, the front matter, specifically what it's called. It'll look at the description that's written there and decide if the skill is appropriate to be used for what it needs. If it deems that it is appropriate, it'll load this file. That's why this file is so short and without a ton of stuff in here. And then it'll say, oh, there's something here, but I need more information. Then we have our references. So it's not going to load all these reference files the first time. It's going to load them as needed. So there you go. Okay, well, let's keep this thing going. Let's see if it actually did it. All right, moment of truth. Oh, so it was already in view. Okay, never mind. Okay, I keep clicking on the map. Okay, not bad.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, I'll take it. Oh, I zoomed in. Okay. See, if these are like close to each other, yeah, I'll take it.
That works.
Yeah. It didn't scroll anywhere because that one was already in view. But man, without after next render, you see, like we would have had a set timeout, which is like okay, but that's the choice that it would have made, Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Very cool. I keep forgetting to take down these comments. All right, let's do one more thing, and then we've been on for about an hour. Let's do one more feature. Now, the feature that I know that I want this to have is that, so this is from the original mock-up, this little panel where it shows critical alert, and this was like the old naming scheme. What I would love for this to be is a card that has like a next arrow, like paginated card. That should show only the ones that are in critical state. So you can, at any point, if you're the person using this as monitoring, you could always click here. Yeah, I want to do that. And that's a questionable UI choice. Somebody can say that's horrible UI, but we get to decide, right? Hey, where did my menu bar go? You notice that? Menu's gone. Wait, did it get rid of my menu bar? Who did it? Who did it? I'm gonna find out. Okay. See, you got to pay attention. These are these are the things like that's why I'm be one shot and stuff. But I don't know when it would have had the chance to have done that. Okay. Just gonna ask it. Did you
It might be a random CSS issue. Like,
okay. So instead of accusing it, I'll just ask it to fix to diagnose and fix. It's not a
yeah.
person. I don't need to talk to it. Right.
I
Okay.
have that frustration all the time. Like,
all right, let's see. All right. So someone asked about HTTP client skill. Oh, okay. You know what? Here's the great thing about the skills too. Thank you for bringing this up. Thanks for bringing this up. The HTTP client skill. If you would like to make a suggestion for the skills, or you have an idea for the skill that you want to expand the Angular developer skill, open a pull request, and then let us know. Let us know. So, Alex, I want to hear your feedback on this. I am leaning in my personal projects and development to use resource plus a custom loader for mutation HTTP requests.
ooh, interesting.
And because I
That's
don't want to go ahead.
that's a slightly dangerous route.
Oh, tell me more.
Yeah. So resource is designed to be a like reactive dependency on data from outside the system somewhere, right? You say like, I have a user ID. I care about what the user behind that user ID is. Here's how to go fetch it. For as long as this resource exists, right? Keep trying to synchronize the user with the user ID that's in the parameters. If you use it for mutations,
Yeah.
it will work, right? Because you're still like making an HTTP request that you control at the end of the day. But resource will happily cancel that request if the data dependency changes or if you navigate away and the page gets destroyed or so forth. And typically you don't want to cancel mutation requests. If the user clicks a save button and your post or request is in the middle of processing, you don't want to terminate that suddenly before it has a chance to send if the user then quickly like skips on to the next thing.
Okay. Okay.
Which was also a concern when you had like HTTP client with observables. You
Right.
don't want to unsubscribe from mutation requests because you want that to continue processing even if the user is changing kind of what they're doing in the moment on the page.
So your recommendation, still HTTP client, and then so just do. I mean, or I can fetch if I just want to, right? And just like
either is fine. Yeah. I usually do HTTP client and then just call .subscribe and leave it as a dangling subscriber because I specifically, explicitly don't want to clean that up.
Interesting. Okay. So let's say this thing's trying to figure something out. I don't know what it wants to do. Let's see. Command contains a redirection. Can be undesirable. Okay. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to do, fam? Okay, wait. I just need to ask it. What are you trying to do?
Agents find all of the creative ways to write files.
That's what I'm saying. Like, just
those shell commands. Yeah.
Why do that? Yeah, like one of my favorite phrases that I found about like AI that is just such a good phrase. It's excellent but not perfect, and don't have the expectation of perfection, right?
Yeah.
Like if you do that, you just like can do so much because I keep thinking about like all the things that I can do in an afternoon that would have taken me months of like nights and weekends on like hobby projects, for example. Like, man, I can do this in the afternoon. Like I can get, it just changes. Okay, so let's see. I am investigating. Okay, what? It wasn't like that before. You know what? Somebody broke it, and then now I got to fix it.
I'm guessing this was during the part of setting up the modal dialog, it might have been playing with the CSS of the page and accidentally broke something.
Headers index to Z to 1000. That feels like humans.
Yeah. Yep.
That just feels like humans. Like, why are you doing that?
The one that I always get is like casting to any.
Yeah. Oh, that burns my biscuits.
Yeah. I am constantly like, I feel like I'm slapping the hand of this AI, right? When it's on the keyboard, like, no, stop casting it to any.
Mm-hmm. Like, stop it.
Yep.
Because we cast to any out of like fatigue and laziness. It's like, oh, I don't want to go and get the like type for this, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? And then it's like,
yep,
ugh, feels bad. Now you don't get to be lazy, agent. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have feelings. Just do the right thing.
I had Gemini one day in the middle of a very long debugging session, after like the 20th time running the tests, and it was not able to like solve the problem. It was just like, oh, I can't look at this anymore. Like, I need to go rest. And it quit the agent loop. Like, it just stopped running.
Oh, wow.
And I sent that to people. And I think it was Miles on the team back then who said, like, oh, you should just role play with it that it's the next morning.
Oh,
and so I did. I went back to the prompt and I was like, oh, welcome back. I hope you had a good night's sleep. Like, let's look at it with fresh eyes. And it's like, yeah, I feel great. Let's go. And then it solved the problem.
That's awesome.
Such a bizarre world we live in now.
Yeah. You know, we got all these like amazing things that we can do.
I think you bring up a really good point that like this is a technology that's incredible in its capability, but is, like you said, it's not perfect. It's still fallible. And so what we're starting to see in the software industry is a shift towards like, let's build reliability on top of this unreliable foundational piece. In the same way we think about software engineering in other contexts, right? How do we take unreliable hard drives and CPUs and servers and build, systems with 5 nines of uptime on top of that? We're now looking at how do we engineer the world around the model to take advantage of what it can do and work around and kind of discipline its limitations. Right? So when you think about performance in a website or accessibility or security, how do we ensure that whatever comes out of the agent, we have the right set of validations so that we can trust letting it write and deploy code without compromising those core requirements? And we are not there yet. Like, the tools are not at the point where they can kind of run on their own and be trusted with that level of operation. But that's where we're heading. That's what everyone's working on.
I would say everybody's working on that. So like always, and it's a little hyperbolistic when I say like nobody knows what's going on. I say it that way so that people like watching feel like, okay, here's a phrase that I just absolutely can't stand. I just cannot stand this phrase, and it's perpetuated. You're being left behind. You're not being left behind. And I'll tell you what. I'll tell you how to rationalize this for yourself. At least in my opinion. This is Mark's opinion. If you are reading and watching what's happening, then you're not left behind. You actually have a front row seat to what's happening next. Because what we thought was true 6 months ago, we're already changing our minds. We're already changing our minds. Because 6 months ago, MCP was like the de facto solution for some of the non-deterministic factors. 6 months ago, we were certain that this open protocol was the answer. And now we're saying, wait, it's actually agent skills. But before MCP, what was it? It was RAG. Ground your models with like RAG additional vectors and all that kind of stuff. No, we're all trying to figure it out. So as long as you aren't ignoring the story, you're not left behind. Should you try things? Yes, you should 100% try things. 100% get out there. If there are generous like no cost limits to some models out there that you can try things, you can get involved. You should see what works and what doesn't, but don't feel like if you aren't like, I don't know what a Ralph Wiggum loop is, and I'm not even worried about it. Because guess what? We're not even talking about it anymore. We were talking about it for 2.5 weeks, and now we're talking about other stuff. So I don't even care about that, but I know that it exists. And if it had turned out to be the direction that we all went, I would have learned. You see? So don't worry about being left behind. Just stay like just stay aware. That's the thing. Stay aware of what's happening. Don't bite on every single lead, but don't act like this is not happening, because it is happening, friends. Like, this is here, right? Like, I don't know, Alex, I won't speak for you, but I'll say this: coding with like AI for me, I'm like, it's unlocked a lot of things that I couldn't do before, and I don't want to. I can't imagine going back, and I don't want to go back. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to go back to the time before.
My favorite is when you sit down in plan mode with the agent and like talk through a big change that you want to do to a personal project or something, and it's like, oh, this is, you estimate like how big of a task this is. It's like, oh, it's like, maybe 2 weeks of engineering time or something, and then you hit go, and 20 minutes later it's like, all done. Ding. Your software is ready. Yeah, I feel pretty incredible, actually. I really feel this like superpower almost of now I can do things in a weekend, in an evening, in my day job that were almost unthinkable 6 months ago. I can really scale the amount of impact that I can have and the amount of stuff I can do. I'm building like fun websites for my niece and nephew to play with. They're like 4 and 2. They're just starting to kind of figure out how to use computers. I don't have time to do that otherwise. Like, that's, building a game that can entertain kids like that is a pretty big investment.
That's right.
But with vibe coding, it can be, a couple hours in the evening, and I can make pretty big progress there.
And I think that it is short-sighted to view what we can vibe code in a weekend as a replacement for like software crafting. You know what I mean? And like system design and system builds. And what I mean by that is like, Alex, what you build in a weekend is not meant to make you rich. It is not meant to be your next startup just because you can build it in a weekend. So like, I said I was going to write a blog post about this. I'm not even going to say this. I'm going to actually write this blog post because I actually do want to write about this. But it's just like, just because we can create things, it just doesn't change the fact that you still need to create what people want. My startup, before I joined Google, I had my own startup, which was a fitness app. And I spent probably 4 years coding, like nights and weekends. So I probably worked 80 hours a week for years because I worked my full-time job. Then I worked my startup at night, trying to like build what I thought people wanted. And I had a company and everything. And I even had like some people on staff. Couldn't really pay them that much. So it was like very little, because I was paying from my own pockets, right? Like whatever. But here's the point. Even with that, I didn't build what people wanted in the end. So it was never successful because it wasn't what people wanted. But I could build. You see, and the same thing is happening now. More people can build, but it doesn't mean that's what people want. Like your hobby app, nobody want that thing. Like, get over yourself. Like, nobody wants that. Like, if you really want to change, the game for yourself, the rules have not changed about market fit. The rules have not changed about like advertisement. The rules have not changed about what it takes to build a business. Coding was never the problem. It was always building the right thing. That was always the hardest part about this whole story. So that's a rant for I don't know what reason, but I just wanted some place to say all that to people.
Yeah, like the one of the things I've heard recently is like, oh, there's no moats anymore. Like, anyone can replace your, multi-million-dollar investment in a SaaS product in like a weekend in vibe coding. And like, they can create a facsimile of it.
That's right.
But a real application that's used by users and loved by users has so many of these little fine tweaks of making sure that it's fitting exactly the right set of use cases and addressing the like requirements of all their different types of customers and the different businesses they're in. And there's trust in a product as well. You've built a relationship with the customer by co-evolving the product with them and listening to them and responding to their feedback and convincing them that like you are going to be a good partner for their business. none of that goes away when someone else says like, "Hey, look what my Claude built," right? And
That's right.
you have a website that looks nice and fancy. That's not immediately trust on the surface.
That's right.
Um,
And because of that exact thing to trust, more people are going to make malicious clones of applications. So trust is going to become even more important over time. Because before you could always tell a bad website or some malicious website because it was always kind of janky looking. It's a little janky, like, oh, this don't look right. Hold on, this ain't right. But now that's not going to be enough. So trust will go even further. You have to, yeah, trust
yeah,
is so important. All right. Let's see. We got 10 minutes left, Alex, and I know you have been so generous with your time today. Let me just put out these last book codes, and then we'll answer a few questions, and then we'll give you time back. I cannot express accurately how much I appreciate you making some time to come hang out today, because I know you are super busy. I know it. So it is very valuable, and the people appreciate it. They really do.
happy to be here.
Yeah, well, don't say that because I'm going to keep inviting you back. So I'm going to try to trick you to become the new co-host. Be like, Mark, I never got this.
You got me out of like deeply in a test that's failing in Google for a signal forms change that I'm trying to make. So I was in the middle of figuring out why that's not working.
See? And now you do something fun.
Yeah. Well, actually, the agent's in the background still like trying to figure it out. So we'll see if it has an answer by the end of this call.
If it has an answer, okay. So speaking of answers, let's answer some question. All right, friends, the book codes are out there. Again, those book codes are very generously donated from the author of that book, who is a GDE for Angular. So this is not a Google sponsored giveaway. He just offered those codes, and he's a GDE, and we thought that we share, as we do share our GDE content all the time. Let's see. Speaking of resources, Solid 2 and Celt 5 are exploring async signals. Does Angular have any plans to introduce them as well?
I think we're looking at what's going on with interest. We're not working on anything in async signals directly ourselves right now. But yeah, curious to see kind of what innovations are coming out from our friends in the wider framework ecosystem.
And thank you for saying our friends, because people don't believe us that we all we're not like fighting. We're all just friends. We all talk.
We chat with Ryan Cornado all the time. Like,
yeah, see, we're just friends. Throw Mark during the thumbnail pose on any site header, and I'll trust it. Okay, shout out to NG Poland for that photo of me, and I just been putting it on everything because I'm like, you know what? Why not? Let's bring some energy back into the game. Okay, here's a great comment. I actually really like this one. I am 43 years old, and I started learning programming in JavaScript, and with AI, it's fun. I increased the learning experience. It does. Yes, it does. I learned quite a bit. I'll tell this really quick story. I will take 1 minute to tell the story. I was adding something for Angular.dev. I wanted a new type of page or something, and it involved having an optional value so it wouldn't break the other pages that didn't have this new type. I had a plan for what I thought the answer should be, and then I asked Gemini, like, okay, what do you think? And it had an alternate plan, and I was like, I don't agree with you, actually. Tell me why. Prove it. And then I went back for like maybe 20 minutes talking about the pros and cons of my approach versus its approach, toward the same problem. I'm just like, yeah, but this feels like over engineering to do it this way. And eventually I did settle on the approach that Gemini suggested, not because I was fatigued, but because eventually I was like, oh, okay. After enough talking, enough exploring, I understood that it was correct. And it was a better solution. I was like, okay, I actually like this. So you could totally learn a lot. There's so many ways to like do AI coding. There's the like hit enter, go take a shower, or there's the like, hit enter and then pay attention to what the outputs are, right? Like there's just so many different variations.
Yeah, AI as a teacher, right? When you're trying to learn something new, trying to work with a new technology, and you're able to test ideas and kind of get its feedback and have it explain things to you, like that's pretty amazing.
That's right. Love it. Okay, here's a good question. This came from earlier. Is Resource API going to be stable soon?
That is the hope. So there is a possibility that Resource stabilizes in version 22. like as always, something could change between now and then, but so far it seems like that is the case.
Yeah. Love it. Do you have any Angular internals tutorials? Ooh, fascinating question.
Cool. Not tutorials that I know of, but we were just talking about learning things from agents. Um,
Yep.
Pointing something like Gemini CLI or one of the other coding tools at the Angular repo and saying, "Hey, explain to me how what a view container ref is," right? Um, that works fantastically, and I've done that to understand parts of the Angular code base that I haven't worked in before. I do that a lot with the existing reactive and template forms because I didn't have much experience with the internal architecture of those pieces when I started working on Signal forms. A really nice prompt for that is just write me a design doc of how this thing works.
Oh, that is
And
so good.
yeah, it spits out like a markdown file kind of explaining the internals, and you can ask it to write an outline and then dig into different sections.
Wow. You know what I've always wanted to try, Alex? Maybe you and I can do this on a future
Hmm.
stream someday. I've always wanted to write a renderer for Flutter using Angular.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, and I just never had the technical. I ain't gonna lie to you, I didn't have the technical skills to complete such a large scale project. But
Hmm.
because Flutter says I can paint pixels anywhere, right? Like at the
Yeah,
core, I can paint pixels anywhere. And I'm just like, well, then if that's true, the interface to get Flutter to draw on the screen, does that matter? Right? Like they just use Dart.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so could we just have Angular do something? I don't know. Like, I just think
That
that's such an interesting idea.
that'd be interesting. I actually have one of those kind of back pocket projects too. You know how all of the coding agents, including Gemini CLI, there
Hmm.
are using they have terminal UI, it's called TUI,
Yep.
and a lot of them are using React and JSX to render the terminal UI.
Yep.
I want to build one with Angular
Oh, that's
because we
such a
have
good
the
project.
we have the renderer abstraction that we could use to kind of translate between terminal and yeah.
Wow. Wow. So
I think it'd
see,
be really good with signals to update a signal and then it updates the part on screen without redrawing the whole thing. I think you could make a pretty good front end for a coding agent there.
I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna just put that in my back pocket as something for us to do. And if maybe during a slow season, we can do a few streams of just trying to do it, right? Like even some sections of that. I think people would love to see that. Um, all right, we got 2 minutes left, and there is a couple of comments I definitely want to make sure we highlight. What do you think about V plus oxidation Angular compiler?
It's so cool. It's so cool. It's like I think a great example of the power of using agents when you have this existing thing that already has a very nice test suite and is you can point the agent at is here's your source of truth. I need you to make this for me. Copy it with a different set of technologies under the hood. Um, from a infrastructure piece, it's a neat. I would call it like an experiment. It is very useful for local development to speed up the edit refresh cycle. It's missing a few pieces that you would want for a fully functional production Angular compiler. It doesn't have any template type checking, for example, and it doesn't do the kind of same build optimizations that Angular does around ng modules and dead code elimination and so forth. But actually, we're doing something similar. So our current project for supporting the Go version of TypeScript, which is changing all the compiler APIs and forcing everyone to kind of rethink how they integrate with TypeScript. We are building on top of the same Oxy library a version of the Angular compiler that is TSGO compatible, that does all of the same template type checking and build optimizations and so forth, kind of decoupled from the TypeScript version, so it'll work with TS7.
Legend, legendary pipe signals. I think there's some rumors going around.
Oh, I'm not privy to these rumors. That's
Okay.
interesting.
I don't know. So I think are there okay.
Oh,
I see what happened. Michael Small asked were there any like any RFCs coming to the pipes, and then somebody said pipe signals. Then let's see, Sky Zero DX says we had an issue for pipe signals, but not an RFC. Yeah, okay, interesting. All right, let's see. Last comment, and then we're gonna roll out. Oh, what's going on, Salah? It's good to see you again. Angular has now official tail enforcement support, but it uses CSS. In case you want to use Angular material, it uses SCSS. Does Angular team recommend a way to resolve this use case? Do you have any idea about this one? I'm actually not the person to ask about this part.
yeah, me neither, unfortunately. I am. That sounds like more of a question for the material team.
Yeah.
I actively tell them all the time, you do not want me anywhere near your CSS.
Yeah, that's right. No, I get the feeling. I get that feeling. Alex, we are at time. So I usually end the show by asking people what are they watching, reading, and playing in case they play video games or any games or hobbies. What are you watching? What are you reading? And what are you playing?
For me specifically?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, interesting. I tend to like, I've stopped watching kind of like television content. I watch a lot of YouTube these days.
Sure.
And recently I've been watching a channel called Wristwatch Revival. And it's a guy who just people send him old, dirty watches or broken watches and things, and he takes them apart under a microscope and shows you how all the internals work. And it's just a very nice vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice thing to sit down and unwind on an evening with.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's very cool. Okay, so then what are you reading these days?
Gosh, I can actually show you over here. This has been the recent, the Ministry for the, Zoom. Yeah, the Ministry for the Future.
Oh, what is this book about?
It is kind of climate change adjacent, but is actually one of the rare books that has a more positive spin on the question of climate change and environmental change. I'm not very far into it, so I can give you a more thorough review later, but it was recommended by a friend. So
I love it. Okay, and then final question for you. What are you playing? Like what games are you playing? Are you playing any games? Any like board games, video games?
yes, Satisfactory just released their experimental next wave of content, and so I've been a little distracted by that.
Okay, love that.
It's a classic for me.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. What am I watching? Just finished up. So I'm watching The Pit for sure because I love that show. It's so good. The Pit, the fall and rise of Reggie Dinkins. If you are a 30 Rock person, like alum like I am, who loves 30 Rock, it's the same kind of like ridiculous comedy. Very, very funny. Very well written. And I just saw the Mario movie with my kid. Took him on opening day. Saw Mario movie. What am I reading? Like I'm reading a couple of books right now. I'm reading In This Economy: How Money and Markets Really Work by Kyla Scanlon. That's a book that I've been reading. Also reading, let's see, of course, I'm still working through AI engineering. So kind of a thicker book. It's taking me a long time. And then, because I still think that this is important, like your know-how does not go out of style, I'm actually reading a book called The Staff Engineer. Because I think, well, people, just don't know that, like at Google, for example, like staff engineer is a very different job than like senior suite. Right, like the responsibilities are different, and what does that mean to be a staff engineer? So, anyway, so think about that, and then finally, what am I playing? Mario Kart World when my kid goes to sleep. Playing some Mario Kart World. All right, friends, it has been an honor to hang out with you, Alex. Thanks for spending so much time with us answering questions. We'll love to have you back in the future, and maybe for one of those projects that we discussed. Friends at home, no matter what you decide to build, you just make sure you get out there and you build great apps, and we'll see you the next time. Take good care.